Right, House of Fraser and all this business that goes on, the suppliers, Shares and Mulberry, they make, is it just handbags they make, or do they make coats, or what else
They
do
do. They
Mulberry?
they
Yeah,
have
all sorts of
clothes
things.
design. They do. They do
I
very
think
well actually with them.
you'd be a Mulberry customer, I know, to look at you, whatever it is, you would be there, suitcases and...
Actually,
Am I right? Am I right? No?
you're wrong.
Oh, am I wrong?
You're
Okay. No,
wrong.
okay, all right, okay. But anyway, Mulberry, 30%. What have plummeted? Shares have plummeted 30% after it said it would set aside $3 million to cover the cost of House of Fraser troubles. Mulberry was owed $2.5 million by House of Fraser prior to the takeover by Mike Ashley. However, Ashley said he wouldn't be paying creditors for debts incurred by House of Fraser before he took over. I mean, that's the real sort of bullish, hard man tactic that he employs there, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of suppliers, people who are involved in the logistics of supplying House of Fraser, and he's saying, not my problem. And people are looking, there's like over 600 redundancies may come about this, 30 million quid in debts and whatever. So I want to talk about this. Here's Kate Hardcastle. Kate is a retail expert. And Kate, one of the reasons I want to talk to you, good evening to you, Kate.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, you've got a programme on the Tonight series on ITV on is it Thursday night?
It's Thursday night this week, yes.
Yeah, shopping, end of the high street, question mark. That is the very big question. First of all, let's talk about Ashley. So he comes in, everybody thinks, oh, look at him, he wants to turn House of Fraser into the Harrods of the high street and all that sort of thing. But there are casualties all along the way here.
They absolutely are. And whilst I've been criticised for speaking out with concern about this takeover, because people believe that any night in Shining Armour is a night in Shining Armour, so be pleased about it. We're not that far off from BHS, where they had a night in Shining Armour, actually, and a few months later it was broken beyond all repair. I think you've got to be very realistic about the high street, what's happened, and how much it costs to change. And this kind of notion that Mike Ashley's putting out there with his team, he wants to bring the Harrods of high streets into these House of Fraser stores, I think just over-promises and is set for a huge under-delivery. That's going to take a massive amount of money, and this is a man who generally sells at discount. So We've got to be realistic and not inflate the hearts of so many people who are involved in the retail industry, supply to it, work really hard in it, and believe that all is well when
it's not well.
Really
it's not well. It's not cricket. It's not fair if you say, right, I'm going to rescue this company. I'm going to take this over. Oh, but incidentally, any debts you incurred before I got there, forget that. These are people's lives, people's jobs. These are other businesses that we're talking about here. Companies can't afford to say, oh yeah, we'll just let that 30 million quid go there.
And just so you know, for every pound that is owed to the creditors, the first tier of creditors get sorted out at kind of the banks and things, but these suppliers who put goods in good faith in these stores are probably going to get about twopence in every pound back.
Yeah.
And if you're in a challenging situation as a creditor anyway, these fashion businesses have had troubling times of late because we're in a recession, we don't have money to go spend on a lot of luxury items. That means that it's probably going to hit them hard as well, and that might have further repercussions. So I don't like this bullish nature of going out saying, yeah, all's mended, don't worry about it. These are, we've got another 10, 20 years of heartache on the high street.
Yeah. So why would he buy into that? If you've got another 10, 20 years of heartache on the high street, why would he want to get involved in that unless he can see a profit? And I'm referring to your programme on Thursday because obviously I'm suspecting that you don't actually see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel.
We're covering as fair and balanced as a point of view as we can. We've been to speak to the government's minister on high streets about what his plans are. He's implemented another review. You might remember there was a Portis review a few years ago. Didn't really seem to get many uplift and changes in high streets because of that. And I just feel that there's a lot of talk, and I'm a Yorkshire lass and I'm all about action. That's my job. I go and turn retail around, and I know how hard it is to do that. This is a guy who trades. He's got Pierre Cardin shirts trading for £3 out of discount baskets. He's got an upmarket department, well, that's not a department store, like a boutique store called Flannels in a lot of the northern towns. He bought into that. But generally, what he does, he buys brands that are doing really bad. They're on the downers, and he tries to he kind of maximises the value out of them. So he sells as much as he can for whatever price he can get. And that's why I challenge this high street of the north. You know, that high street of Harrods at the high street, it's about service. It's about reinvesting in the stores. It's about building something for the future. It's not about just what we call trading it out, where you just push and push and push something until there's nothing left in it. And what consumers tell us is they don't need to go to the high street anymore. They don't need to go for discount even. So if they're going to be attracted back there, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than just a lot of discount offers.
Kate, I've got two questions actually that are burning. And one is, do the suppliers, do they have any rights? Is there anything they can do? Is there any choice? Or he can actually just come and say, right, that's it, done. You know, it doesn't matter what you lose. And
you ain't getting paid.
You ain't getting paid. Can they do anything?
Business sometimes have insurances in place, but generally this is the game we play. You trade with an organisation, you put in place an amount of credit agreement. And let's not just forget, this isn't just stock. They will have created concessions in these 21 House of Fraser stores. They will have put staff members and training in there. These are all sunk costs. They're things that you have to spend at the beginning of a business that you don't get back that cash for a long time. And they'll have lost out in so many other ways than the ones we're reporting on. They must have trusted House of Fraser in terms of the future. But I've got to be honest, in the revolving door of management I've seen there for the past few years, I kind of wonder why they've made those decisions. It's chronic for anyone who's involved in the supply chain because there is no light at the end of the tunnel.
And they're not protected. Kate, the other thing I wanted to ask you, obviously this is to do with your programme. You were talking about the experiences on the high street and people having the positive shopping experiences. Do you think that can they enhance an experience so that they can attract more people? Is there anything that they can do?
Absolutely. I mean, particularly other people, other brands have still got hope ahead. There are green shoots. We've seen brilliant things like these food markets, experience, people call it social retail, but the idea of being out there and going out and meeting friends and then doing a little bit of shopping and seeing having a great experience, that's all going very well, but it takes a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of service. But, you know, truly, retail's tough. It's getting tougher. It's survival of the fittest. And it's the middle market that's actually the one that's been hit the hardest. Luxury is not doing too badly, actually. We're still, reaching up for a purchase now and again to cheer ourselves up. But it's been the rise and rise of what we call the value brands. They're not discounters, actually. The brands like Primark of the world that have just come and taken over such a big marketplace. And then obviously the rest of the online brands who, this is the big pushback we get from the retailers, look, they don't pay fair, they don't pay the taxes, they don't pay the rate.
Kate, sorry, am I right in thinking, I'm sure I heard this somewhere, that Primark don't have an online presence?
You might have heard it from me because I think it's a massive fact. They are not online yet. They've got nearly 10 million Instagram followers, so they know how it all works. But they've not even pressed that lever yet. And, you know, they are reaching up. They've got a really clever strategy. They've just done a massive partnership with Disney. They're an aspirational brand. Those are Christmas presents that people are going to be going and getting. And that's going to be at the cost of those middle market department stores who normally charge twice as much. I'm worried, I'm concerned, but most of all I'm worried because the people in the boardroom are not listening to the customers and they're not making the right decisions to build better businesses for a future and making them more robust.
I used to work for Primark, Kate.
Did you?
I did.
In Ireland?
Yes, in Belfast. I should have stayed there, probably. I was a trainee manager at 18 years of age. I wanted to be a journalist, and my mother said, "Oh, to be ridiculous, get out and get a real job." So that's what she actually said to me, right? And so I went to Primark, and it was a great experience for me because retail was so tough. So tough. Actually, at the end of a year with them, I thought, stuff this. And I really did. And I went back, I went to journalism college, and I worked even harder than I probably ever would before. I defied my mother. I went and I worked in a bar in the evening and said, well, if you need money that much, there it is, boom, boom, boom. But I'm going to be a journalist. And my experience of a year in retail, for anybody who works on the shop floor, for anybody who works in management and retail, I just have to say respect, because that is hard graft.
Bless you, absolutely. It is some of the hardest. You are dealing with people every day. I always class it as the retail theatre floor. You know, it's going out on stage every day, smile on your face, and trading hard, and it can be done still in this country brilliantly, and it can be balanced with online, but you've got to be really concerned about the most all of this, which is the customer. You've got to give the customer respect. They're very savvy, very intelligent, and they're only going to spend hard-earned money if you get it right. And I just know that some of these boardrooms are not listening to that advice, and that's a woeful shame.
Okay. Well, look, I'm really going to watch your show Thursday night with interest.
Thank you, sir.
On ITV. Is it 8 o'clock ITV, I presume?
It's 7:30 ITV1.
7:30 ITV1. Kate Hardcastle, she's putting forward this question. Shopping is at the end of the high street, and that is in the Tonight series. Kate, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.
And you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Retail, it is really hard graft there, and we were talking about, the things around it. Kate was saying that there are opportunities, that will be the survival of the fittest, but I mean, it has got to be attractive, hasn't it? It's got to be parking there, for instance.